Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivishikam Vidamscha Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnana Jana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindabhidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Premnave Bijapradam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Bharanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Bharanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Bharam Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Shridaram Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gorata Vishay Namah. So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami with translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This is Madhya-lila chapter 6, the liberation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So I'll start with text number 83. This is a discussion between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinathacharya. And then Gopinathacharya has told Mahaprabhu, Gopinathacharya has told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord himself, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is arguing that can't be proved and that's not correct. So let's start with text number 83. Ishwarer kripalesha hoita jahare seta ishwara tattva janibare pare. Gopinathacharya continued, if one receives but a tiny bit of the Lord's favor by dint of devotional service, he can understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Gopinathacharya is saying that one can only know Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Lord when one has received the mercy of the Lord. Atapite deva parambujadvaya prasaraleshanu grihita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya eko pichiram vichinvan. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate in order to understand the Supreme are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. Jajjapi Jagat Guru Tumi Shastra Gyanavan Pratibite Nahi Pandita Tomara Saman Ishvarer Kripalesha Nahika Tomate Ateva Ishvara Tattva Na Parajanite. Gopinathacharya then addressed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. You are a great scholar and a teacher of many disciples. Indeed, there is no other scholar like you on earth. Nonetheless, because you are bereft of even a pinch of the Lord's mercy, you cannot understand him, even though he is present in your home. Tomara nahikado shastra eko he bandita pandityadye ishvara tattva jnana kabuna he. It is not your fault, it is the verdict of the scriptures. You cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by scholarship. Sarvabhauma kohe acharya kaha sabadane tomate ishvara kripa ite ki pramane. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, My dear Gopinathacharya, please speak with great care. What is the proof that you have received the mercy of the Lord? Acharya ko he bastu vishaye hoy bastu gyan, bastu tattva jnana hoy kripate praman. Gopinathacharya replied, Knowledge of the summum bonum, the absolute truth, is evidence of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Ihara sharire sab Ishvara lakan Mahaprema vesha tumi payacha darshan. Gopinathacharya continued, You have seen the symptoms of the Supreme Personality of God in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his absorption in an ecstatic mood. Tabuta Ishvara Gyan na hoy tomar Ishvarera Maya e boli vyavahar. Despite directly perceiving the symptoms of the Supreme Lord in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you cannot understand him. This is commonly called Maya, illusion. Gopinathacharya is pointing out that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had already seen uncommon symptoms of ecstasy manifest in the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These uncommon symptoms of ecstasy have indicated the Supreme Person, but despite having seen all these symptoms, the Bhattacharya could not understand the Lord's transcendental nature. He was considering the Lord's pastimes to be mundane. This was certainly due to illusion. Dekitena dekitare bahirmukajan shuni hasi sarvabhauma bhattacharya bachan. A person influenced by the external energy is called bahirmukajan, a mundane person, because despite his perception, he cannot understand the real substance. Hearing Gopinathacharya say this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya smiled and began to speak as follows. Ishtagoshti vichar kore na koriya rosh shastadriste ko hikachuna loya dosh. The Bhattacharya said, we are just having a discussion among friends and considering the points described in the scriptures. Do not become angry. I am simply speaking on the truth of the Shastras. Please don't take any offense. So the point that Gopinathacharya is raising is that one has to receive the mercy of the Lord in order to know him, because the Lord is not known by scholarship, but rather he can reveal himself to his devotees. So it depends on the Lord's revealing himself, and that will only occur if one has received the mercy of the Lord. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's arguing when Gopinathacharya says that one can only know the Lord when one has received the grace of the Lord or the mercy of the Lord. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, well, what is the evidence that you have received the mercy of the Lord and I haven't? And Gopinathacharya says, because Mahaprabhu was present in your house in divine ecstasy and trance for so many hours, but you can't recognize him. So this is the indication that, and Gopinathacharya saying that he can know the Lord. Now, this may appear to someone as being like a circular argument, but it actually is not, because the simple fact is that the Lord reveals himself to his devotees, and when he reveals himself, he's known. But he's not known to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, despite the fact that he was in his house for so long. So it's an obvious point that one can know the Lord. When one knows the Lord, it's by the grace or mercy of the Lord. That's the point being made here. Mahabhagavata hoy Chaitanya Gosai ekali kali Vishnur avataranai. Sarvabhauma continues. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is certainly a great uncommon devotee, but we cannot accept him as an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, because according to Shastra, there is no incarnation in this age of Kali. Ateva trijuga kori kohe Vishnu nam Kali Juge Avatara Nahi Shastra Gyan. Another name for Lord Vishnu is Triyuga, because there is no incarnation of Lord Vishnu in Kali Yuga. And this is the verdict of the revealed scriptures. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is known as Triyuga, which means that he is manifest in 3 yugas. However, this means that in the age of Kali, the Lord appears not directly but in disguise. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Itam nri tirya grishi deva gyasavatarar lokan vibhav vayasi hamsi jagat pratipan dharmam mahapurusha pashi yuganuvrittam chanakalo yad abhavas Triyugota Satvam. My Lord, you kill all the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations. You kill all the enemies of the world in your multifarious incarnations in the families of men, animals, demigods, rishis, aquatics, and so on. Thus you illuminate the worlds with transcendental knowledge. In the age of Kali, O Mahapurush, you sometimes appear in a covered incarnation. Therefore, you are known as Triyuga, one who appears only in 3 yugas. Srila Sridhar Swami has also verified that Lord Vishnu appears in the age of Kali, but does not act as he does in other ages. Lord Vishnu incarnates for 2 purposes. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam. That is, he comes to engage in pastimes with his devotees and to annihilate the demons. These purposes are visible in the Satya, Treta, and Dwapara Yugas, but in Kali Yuga the Lord appears disguised. He does not directly kill demons and gives protection to the faithful. Because the Lord is not directly perceived in Kali Yuga, but is directly known in the other 3 yugas, his name is Triyuga. Shunya charjako he duke hoyamane shastra gya korinya tumi kura abhimane. Upon hearing this, Gopinathacharya became very unhappy. He said to the Bhattacharya, you consider yourself the knower of all Vedic scriptures. Bhagavat Bharata Dui Shastrara Pradhan Se Dui Grantha Bhakti Nahi Abadan. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata are the 2 most important Vedic scriptures, but you have paid no attention to their statements. Se Dui Kohek Kalite Sakadabatar Tumikaha Kalite Nahi Vishnura Prachar. In Srimad Bhagavatam and the Mahabharata it is stated that the Lord appears directly, but you say that in this age there is no manifestation or incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Kali Juge Lila Avatar Nakore Bhagavan Atevatri Juga Kore Kohe Taranam. In this age of Kali, there is no Lila Avatar of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as Triyuga. That is one of his holy names. Pratichuge Koran Krishna Chugavatar Tarkanishta Hridoy Tomar Nahika Bichar. Gopinathacharya continued, there is certainly an incarnation in every age, and such an incarnation is called the Yuga Avatar. But your heart has become so hardened by logic and argument that you cannot consider all these facts. Asan Varnas Trayo Yashya Grinato Nu Yugam Tanu Shuklo Raktas Tatapita Idanim Krishnatam Gata. In the past, your son has had bodies of 3 different colors according to the age. These colors were white, red, and yellow. In this age, Dwapara Yuga, he has accepted a blackish body. And spoken by Garga Muni when he identifies Krishna as the Supreme Lord during the Dwapara age, but he mentions the color of yellow as being one of the Lord's colors of his incarnation, especially when we consider Yuga avatars. There are 4 yugas, and there's an incarnation of the Lord in every yuga. So on the basis of color, you could also understand that in Kali Yuga, the Lord has a yellow color. Iti dvarpara urvisha stuvanti jagad ishvaram nanatantra vidanena kala vapi tatashrinu. In the age of Kali, as well as in Dwarpara Yuga, the people offer prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by various mantras and observe the regulative principles of the supplementary Vedic literatures. Now please hear of this from me. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopanga Straparshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti E Sumeda Saha. In this age of Kali, those who are intelligent perform the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. They perform Sankirtan. In this age of Kali, those who are intelligent perform Sankirtan of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in this age always describing the glories of Krishna. That incarnation is yellowish and is always associated with his plenary expansions such as Nityananda Prabhu and personal expansions such as Gadadhar, as well as his devotees and associates such as Swarup Damodar. Suvarnavarno Hemango Varangas Chandanangadi Sannyasa Krich Chama Shanta Nishta Shanti Parayana. The Lord, in the incarnation of Gaurasundar, has a golden complexion. Indeed, his entire body, which is very nicely constituted, is like molten gold. Sandalwood pulp is smeared over his body. He will take the fourth order of spiritual life, sannyas, and will be very much self-controlled. He will be distinguished from Mayavadi sannyasis in that he will be fixed in devotional service and will spread the Sankirtan movement. Tomara age eta katara nahi prayojan ushara bhumite jena bijera ropan. Gopinathacharya then said, "There is no need to quote so much evidence from the Shastras, for you are a very dry speculator. There is no need to sow seeds in barren land." Tomaru pare tara kripa jabe habe esab siddhanta tabe tumia kohibe. When the Lord will be pleased with you, you will also understand these conclusions and will quote from the Shastras. So, because Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is not only knows by hypothesis, which is basically speculation, then Gopinathacharya says, you're like a dry speculator. Therefore, there's no need to sow any seeds in barren land. Why would one plant seeds in a place where nothing will grow? So he says, I don't have to continue quoting from the Shastra or anything. Tomara jay sishya kohe kutarka nanabad ihara ki dosha e mayara prasad. The false arguments and philosophical word jugglery of your disciples are not faults of theirs. They have simply received the benediction of Mayavad philosophy. All the foolish arguments and word jugglery of your disciples, it's not their fault. It's just the result. This is the conclusion of Mayavad philosophy, the only way you can proceed. On argument and hypothesis. Yats chaktayo varatam vadinam vai vivada samvada bhuvo bhavanti kurvanti chaisham muhur atma moham tasmai namo nanta gunaya bhumne. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full of unlimited qualities and whose different potencies bring about agreement and disagreement between disputants. Thus the illusory energy again and again covers the self-realization of both disputants. Yuktam cha shanti sarvatra bhashante brahmanayata mayam madiyam udgrinya vadatam kim nadurgatam. In almost all cases, whatever learned Brahmins speak becomes accepted. Nothing is impossible for one who takes shelter of my illusory energy and speaks under her influence. Tabe Bhattacharya kohe jaha gosaira stane amaraname gana sahita kora nimantrane. After hearing this from Gopinath Acharya, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, first go to the place where Mahaprabhu is staying and invite him here with his associates. Ask him on my account. So are you going now?
Not yet.
Okay. Prasada ani tare koraha agebika paschat ashi amare koraya sikka. Take Jagannath Prasad and first give it to Sri Chaitanya. Take Jagannath Prasad and first give it to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. After that, come back here and teach me well. Acharya Bhaganipati Shalaka Bhattacharya Nindastuti Hasheshika Korana Acharya. Gopinath Acharya was the brother-in-law of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Therefore, the relationship was very sweet and intimate. Under the circumstances, Gopinath Acharya taught him by sometimes blaspheming him, sometimes praising him, and sometimes laughing at him. This had been going on for some time. Acharya Siddhante Mukundera Hoila Santosh Paracharya Bhakya Mane Hoila Dukkha Rosh. Srila Mukunda Datta felt very satisfied to hear the conclusive statements of Gopinath Acharya, but he became very unhappy and angry to hear the statements put forth by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Gosairastani Acharya Koila Gaman Bhattacharya Nametare Koila Nimantran. According to the instructions of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Gopinath Acharya went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and invited him on the Bhattacharya's behalf. Mukunda Sahita Kohe Bhattacharya Kata Bhattacharya Nindakori Mane Panabhyata. The Bhattacharya's statements were discussed before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gopinath Acharya and Mukunda Datta disapproved of the Bhattacharya's statements because they caused mental pain. Shuni Mahaprabhu kohe aiche matkoha toma prati Bhattacharya hoy anugraha. Hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, do not speak like that. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has shown great affection and mercy toward me. Amara Sanyasa Dharma Chahena Rakite Vatsaye Karuna Koren Ki Dosha Ihate. Out of paternal affection for me, he wants to protect me and see that I follow the regulative principles of a sannyasi. What fault is there in this? Aradin Mahaprabhu Bhattacharya Sane Anande Korila Jagannatha Darshane. The next morning, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya together visited the temple of Lord Jagannath. Both of them were in a very pleasant mood. Bhattacharya Sange Tara Mandire Aila Prabhure Asana Diya Apane Basila. When they entered the temple, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offered Chaitanya Mahaprabhu an asan. While he himself sat down on the floor out of due respect for a sannyasi. Vedanta Paraite Tabe Aramba Korila Sneha Bhakti Korikechu Prabhure Kohila. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya offered a seat to Mahaprabhu, but he himself sat in a more down, humble position, giving respect to Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi. Vedanta Padaiti Tabe Aramba Korila Sneho Bhakti Korikechu Prabhure Kohila. He then began to instruct Mahaprabhu on Vedanta philosophy, and out of affection and devotion, he spoke to the Lord as follows. Vedanta Shravane Sanyasira Dharma Nirantara Koratumi Vedanta Shravana. The Bhattacharya said, hearing Vedanta philosophy is a sannyasi's main business. Therefore, without hesitation, you should study Vedanta philosophy, hearing it without cessation from a superior person. Prabhu kohe more tumi kura anugraha se kartabhya tumi jay morakaha. Mahaprabhu replied, you are very merciful to me, and therefore I think it is my duty to obey your order. Shatadin parjandai che korana shravane balomanda nahi kohe basi matrashune. Thus for 7 days continually, Mahaprabhu listened to the Vedanta philosophy expounded by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. However, Mahaprabhu did not say anything and did not indicate whether it was right or wrong. He simply sat there and listened to the Bhattacharya for 7 days, didn't say anything, no questions, nothing. Ashtama divase tare puche sarvabhauma shatadin koratumi vedanta shravana. On the 8th day, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Mahaprabhu, you have been listening to the Vedanta philosophy from me continually for 7 days. Balomandana hikoha raha monadori buja kina buja iha bujitena pari. You have simply been listening, fixed in your silence. Since you do not say whether you think it is right or wrong, I cannot know whether you are actually understanding Vedanta philosophy or not. Prabhu kohe murgami nahi adyayan tomara agyate matra koriye shravan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, I am a fool, I'm a murka, I'm a fool, and consequently I do not study the Vedanta Sutra. I am just trying to hear it from you because you have ordered me. Sanyasira dharma lagi shravana matra kori tumije artakora bujitana pari. Only for the sake of executing the duties of the renounced order of sannyas do I listen. Unfortunately, I cannot in the least understand the meaning you are presenting. Okay. Bhattacharya kohena buje hena gyanajar buji bara lage seho puchi punarbar. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, I accept that you do not understand, yet even one who does not understand inquires about the subject matter. Tumi shuni roha mona matra dori ridaye ki ache tomar bujite napari. You are hearing again and again. You're just hearing and yet you keep silent. I cannot understand what is actually within your mind. Prabhu kohe sutrarartha bujiye nirma tomara bhyakya shuni mana hoita biko. Mahaprabhu then revealed his mind, saying, I can understand the meaning of each sutra very clearly, but your explanations have simply agitated my mind. Sutrera artha bhashya kohe prakashiya tumi bhashya koha sutra artha achadiya. The meaning of the aphorisms in the Vedanta Sutra contain clear purports in themselves, but other purports you presented simply covered the meaning of the sutras like a cloud. So sutrera murka, sutrera mukya artana kora bhyakyan, kalpantare tumitaha kora achadan. You do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma Sutras. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover the real meaning. Upanishad Shabdi Jai Mukya Arta Hoy Se Arta Mukya Bhyasa Sutre Sabakoi. Mahaprabhu continued, the Vedanta Sutra is a summary of the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishads is also recorded in the Vedanta Sutra or Vyasa Sutra. So, Mahaprabhu is listening to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explain the Vedanta Sutra, and he's listened for 7 days without commenting. On the 8th day, Sarvabhauma asked him, well, I can't tell whether you're understanding or not because you don't say anything, you don't ask any questions. And Mahaprabhu says, you're right, I cannot understand what you're saying. Then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya says, and someone who can't understand, he should ask questions. How will you understand the Vedanta Sutra without asking questions? And then Mahaprabhu says, yes, but I can understand the Vedanta Sutra because it's clear. It's clear. And what it says itself is very clear. What's not clear is your explanations. It seems like your business is to cover the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. And so this is Mahaprabhu's, he says, you do not explain the direct meaning of the Brahma Sutras. Indeed, it appears that your business is to cover the real meaning. So now is because Sarvabhauma is taking you can say, almost a patronizing tone, or it is a patronizing mood that he's saying, I will teach you the Vedanta Sutra, but why don't you ask questions? Because I can't understand what you're saying. Well, how will you understand the Vedanta Sutra if you don't ask questions? I can understand the Vedanta Sutra fine. What I can't understand is what you say. Then it's a direct challenge to, it's because Sarvabhauma is taking a patronizing tone that I will teach you, but if you don't ask questions, how will you understand the Vedanta Sutra? But I can understand the Vedanta Sutra. It's you who don't seem to be able to understand.
You are trying to explain this. You are covering with a cotton.
Yes, so.
Covering the real meaning.
Upanishad Shabdi Jai Mukya Arta Hoy Se Arta Mukya Vyasa Sutre Sab Koi. Mahaprabhu continued, the Vedanta Sutra is a summary of the Upanishads. Therefore, whatever direct meaning is there in the Upanishads is also recorded in the Vedanta Sutra or Vyasa Sutra. So the Vedanta Sutra is a summary. And as such, a summary will present what is in a short way, will present what is already in the Upanishads. So whatever's in the Upanishads, that'll be in the Vedanta Sutra. It won't be something that's not in the Upanishads. Mukyarta chadiya kora gunarta kalpana abhida vritti chari kora shabdara lakana. For each sutra, the direct meaning must be accepted without interpretation. However, you simply abandon the direct meaning and proceed with your imaginative interpretation. Premanera madhya shruti praman pradhan shruti jay mukyarta kohe se praman. Although there is other evidence, the evidence given in the Vedic version must be taken as foremost. Vedic versions understood directly are first-class evidence. Jivera aste vishta dui shanga gomai shruti bhakye se dui mahapavitroy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, conch shells and cow dung are nothing but the bones and the stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. So conch shells and and cow dung.
Cow dung.
Yeah, cow dung. Excremento de vaca. They're both accepted as pure, and the Shastras mention that. But if you just saw them by themselves, it would appear the conch shell is the shell of a fish, or like the bones and stool. They're never considered pure, but they are in the case of cow dung and in the case of conch shells. Why? Because the scriptures give that evidence. But if you just observe them yourself, you would think they're not pure because they're the bones and the stool of some living entities, as it said. Mahaprabhu continued, conch shells and cow dung are nothing but the bones and the stool of some living entities. But according to the Vedic version, they are both considered very pure. Svata pramana veda satya jay koi lakana korile svata pramanya hane hoy. The Vedic statements are self-evident. Whatever is stated there must be accepted. If we interpret according to our own imagination, the authority of the Vedas is immediately lost. So what the Vedas say, we accept that. We don't look at it in basis of logical deduction, but the statements are accepted as they're presented. Vyasa Sutrara Artha Jaiche Suryara Kiran Sakalpita Bhashya Mege Kore Achadan. Mahaprabhu continued, the Brahma Sutra, compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, is as radiant as the sun. One who tries to interpret its meaning simply covers that sunshine with a cloud. Veda Purane Kohe Brahma Nirupan Se Brahma Brihad Vastu Ishwara Lakan. All the Vedas and literature that strictly follow the Vedic principles explain that the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. Vedanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yadsgyanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabhyate. That Brahman is an aspect of, or a feature of the Supreme Lord. Just as Paramatma and Vedanti tattvavidas tattvam yadsgyanam advayam brahmeti paramatmati bhagavaniti shabhyate. So these are three aspects of the Lord. Mahaprabhu is saying all the Vedas and literature that strictly follow the Vedic principles explain that the Supreme Brahman is the absolute truth, the greatest of all, and a feature of the Supreme Lord. Sarvaishvarya Paripurna Swayam Bhagavan Tare Nirakara Kori Koraha Vyakyan. Actually, the Supreme Absolute Truth is a person, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full with all opulences. You are trying to explain him as impersonal and formless. Nirvishesh Tarib Gohe Jai Shrutigan Prakrita Nishedi Kore Aprakrita Stapan. Wherever there is an impersonal description in the Vedas mean to establish that everything belonging to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental and free of mundane characteristics. So the impersonal is to negate that the Lord has mundane qualities or aspects or characteristics. It's not to say that he has no form, but that his form is not mundane. It doesn't consist of flesh and blood, but rather the Lord always appears as in his transcendental body. So when anything comes up in the Vedas that seems to be impersonal, it is to negate that the Lord has any mundane qualities or aspects. His body is not mundane. Everything, that's the way he. So this is the point that Gopinath Acharya is saying to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. If there's some impersonal quality mentioned, it is only to negate mundane. Yaya Shruti Yaya Shrutir Jalpati Nirvishesham Sa Shabdidate Sa Visheshameva Vichara Yoge Satihandatasam Praya Baliya Sa Visheshameva. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, whatever Vedic mantras describe the Absolute Truth and personally only prove in the end that the Absolute Truth is a person. The Supreme Lord is understood in two features, impersonal and personal. If one considers the Supreme Personality of God in both features, he can actually understand the Absolute Truth. He can know that the personal understanding is stronger because we see that everything is full of variety. No one can see anything that is not full of variety. So actually what's being stated here is Mahaprabhu's philosophy. His philosophy is Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously one and different. So the Supreme Lord is one with the living entities, that he has the qualities of Satchidananda, or eternity, eternality, consciousness, and Ananda, and unlimited happiness. The living entities also have that quality, but the Lord has them in infinite degree. But also, there is nothing mundane, he has no material body. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, whatever Vedic mantras describes the Absolute Truth impersonally only prove in the end that the Absolute Truth is a person. The Supreme Lord is understood in two features, impersonal and personal. If one considers the Supreme Lord in both features, he can actually understand the Absolute Truth. He knows that the personal understanding is stronger because we see that everything is full of variety. No one can see anything that is not full of variety. No one can perceive the impersonal aspect. But the Lord, one can be perceived because he is complete in everything. Brahma hoite janme vishva brahmite jivai se brahme punarape hoye jai loy. Everything in the cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, remains in the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again, enters the Absolute Truth. So this is now getting into the description in the Chatushloki of the second canto. That's where it mentions like this. Everything in the cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, remains in the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again enters the Absolute Truth. So what the Chatushloki says that before the creation, the Lord exists. During the creation, only he exists, and after annihilation, only the Lord continues to exist. That he is not an aspect of the creation. He doesn't occur. It's not that he comes into being when there's a cosmic manifestation by Lord Brahma. The Lord exists before the creation, during the creation, and after the annihilation of the cosmos. Brahma hoite janme vishva brahmite jivai se brahme punarape hoy jai loy. Everything in the cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, remains in the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again enters the Absolute Truth. Apadana karana adhikaran karakatin bhagavaner shavisheshe etina china. The personal feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the personal features, are categorized in three cases, namely ablative, instrumental, and locative. So this is referring to an understanding, one who understands the principles of Sanskrit grammar. This is mentioned, these case endings, ablative, instrumental, and locative. Bhagavan bahu hoite jabe koilaman prakrita shakti te tabe koila vilokan sikalina hi janme prakrita manonayan. Ateva aprakrita brahmera netraman. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead wished to become many, he glanced over the material energy. Before the creation, there were no mundane eyes or mind. Therefore, the transcendental nature of the Absolute Truth's mind and eyes is confirmed. So the Lord glances over the material energy, and that energy becomes manifest, yes. And the Lord's glance, the Lord has eyes, he's glancing, and yet the creation has not occurred yet. So that means the Lord's eyes and his activities are not mundane. There were no living entities created with eyes, but the Lord is glancing over the material energy before the manifestation or before the creation occurred. That means his vision, his glancing, everything is not part of this material creation, but is rather the cause of the material creation. When the Supreme Personality of God wished to become many, he glanced over the material energy. Before the creation, there were no mundane eyes or mind. Therefore, the transcendental nature of the Absolute Truth's mind and eyes is confirmed. Brahma Shabde Kohe Purna Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna Shastra Praman. The word Brahman indicates the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is Sri Krishna. That is the verdict of all Vedic literature. So Parabrahman. Veda Nigudarta Bhujana Nahoy Purana Vakye Sayarta Koraye Nischai. The confidential meaning of the Vedas is not easily understood by common men. Therefore, the meaning is supplanted by the words of the Puranas. Aho bhagyam, nandagopa vrajokasham, yanmitram, paramanandam, purnam brahma sanatanam. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. There is no limit to their fortune, because the Absolute Truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal Supreme Brahman, has become their friend. Apanipada Shruti Varje Prakrita Panichara Charan Punakohe Shigrachale Kore Sarvagrahan. The Vedic Apanipada mantra rejects material hands and legs, yet it states that the Lord goes very fast and accepts everything offered to him. Ateva Shruti Apane Pada Shruti Bharje Prakrita Panicharan Punakohe Shigrajali Kore Sarvagrahan. The Vedic Apanipada mantra rejects material hands and legs, yet it states that the Lord goes very fast and accepts everything offered to him. So how he does that if he has no hands and legs? But it says he goes very fast and he accepts everything offered to him. That indicates that his hands and legs are divine. It's already said he has no material legs, but how is he able to go so fast? How is he able to accept everything offered to him if he has no hands? Because this proves that the Lord's aspects are divine. So I'm going to stop here. Next reading will continue. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jaravaya Nama Jaravaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shimari Sudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Garadhara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhakta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath H.I. Gosai Kori Janana Bandhan Jao Ete Vignana Shabista Puran H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Charadan Kasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagram Kare Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodan Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakaryaashta Tara Sarasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakaryaashta Tara Sarasi Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakshidhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Sunanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishordas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dash Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Premsigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Harshivasri Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vishvavarenya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Bhakti Sripad Bhakti Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kunda Radhakunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Sripad Bhakti Bandhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo.
Jai Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardan